Hello everyone, and welcome to the fifth lesson of our Living-ology series, Y1W05, an introduction to economics and finance. I'm so glad you're all here with me tonight, whether you're curled up on your couch with a warm drink, lying in bed, ready to unwind, or even listening on your commute home. Let me start by saying this. Economics and finance aren't just fancy words for Wall Street traders or university professors to throw around. They're not a secret code that only a select few get to understand. No, my friends, they're the language of everyday life. They're in the coffee you buy on your way to work, the rent you pay each month, the savings account you're slowly building, the TikTok live sales you can't help but click on, and even the way you choose to spend your weekend instead of working overtime. And that's exactly what we're going to uncover today, this hidden language that shapes every small and big decision we make. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Economics? Finance? That sounds boring? That sounds complicated? That sounds like something that'll make my head hurt, not help me relax and sleep better. And I get it, so many of us have had that experience with these subjects, right? We open a textbook, see a bunch of graphs and jargon, and immediately close it again, thinking it's not for us. But tonight, we're throwing that textbook energy out the window. We're going to talk about these ideas like we're having a casual chat over a cup of tea or a glass of French wine, if that's your thing after all. A little French flair never hurt anyone. We'll take it slow, nice and steady, no rush, no pressure. My goal for this evening isn't to turn you all into economists or financial analysts by the end of the talk. Far from it. Remember, Living-ology is all about upgrading our life, common sense to common sense plus. That's it. We just want to understand the basics, the core ideas that let us look at the world a little more clearly, make decisions a little more confidently, and maybe even worry a little less about money and the economy. And if by the end, this steady conversation helps you drift off into a peaceful sleep, well, that's the cherry on top of the croissant, as we'd say in France, la cerise, sur le gâteau. So, what are we going to cover tonight? Let's map it out nice and clear, so you always know where we are. No confusion, no lost thoughts. First, in this first part, we'll start with the absolute fundamentals. What exactly is economics, and what exactly is finance? We'll break down the difference between the two, because so many people mix them up, and that's totally okay. They're closely related, like two sides of the same euro coin. We'll talk about the big questions economics tries to answer, the ones that have puzzled thinkers for centuries, and we'll talk about how finance is the practical side, the part that deals with the money and resources that make those economic ideas real in our lives. We'll also touch on the two big branches of economics, micro and macro agon, in the simplest way possible. No fancy definitions, just real-life examples. Then, we'll move into the core building blocks of economics: scarcity, choice, and opportunity cost. These three ideas are the foundation of everything we'll talk about tonight, and once you get them, you'll start seeing them everywhere you look. After that, in the second part, we'll dive into the key theories of economics and finance that are essential for our common sense plus upgrade. We'll talk about supply and demand, the most famous economic idea of all, and for good reason, because it's behind every price tag you see. We'll use examples from everyday life, from the price of avocado toast, a classic I know, to the surge in prices for concert tickets for your favorite artists, to the way gas prices go up and down like a roller coaster. We'll also talk about inflation, what it is, why it happens, how it affects your wallet, and why everyone was talking about it so much a few years ago, and still is a little bit today. Then we'll shift to finance's core ideas: the time value of money, compound interest, the magic of making your money work for you, even when you're sleeping, and the golden rule of risk and reward, something that everyone needs to understand before they make any kind of investment, big or small. We'll make all these theories tangible, not abstract. No graphs, no equations, just stories and examples that stick. In the third part, we'll bring all these ideas down to earth and into the real world. This is where the fun happens, because we'll connect the theories we've talked about to the hot topics you've seen on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and the news in the last few years. We'll talk about the 2025 global central bank interest rate cuts, what the Fed, the European Central Bank, the Bank of England are doing, and why it matters to your savings account, your mortgage, and even the stocks you might own or be thinking about owning. We'll talk about TikTok and Instagram Live, commerce, the herd mentality that makes us buy things we don't need, the way supply and demand play out in real time during a live sale, and why those limited time only deals work so well. We'll talk about the rise of digital currencies, not just Bitcoin, but the central bank digital currencies that countries around the world are testing out and what that means for the future of money. We'll also talk about gig economy, work Uber, Deliveroo, Fiverr, and how economic ideas shape the way those workers are paid, the risks they take, and the choices they have. And throughout this part, we'll pause for little quick quizzes. No pressure, no wrong answers, just a little check-in to see how much we're absorbing, a little mental exercise to keep our brains engaged but not overworked. Finally, in the fourth part, we'll look to the future. We'll talk about the trends we're seeing in the global economy and financial markets for the next few years, what experts are predicting, what the data is telling us, and what it all means for your everyday life. We'll give you simple, practical financial tips that anyone can follow, no matter how much money you have, no matter how little you think you know. These aren't Dietrich quick schemes, far from it. They're the boring, steady, smart choices that build financial security over time, the kind of choices that let you sleep better at night, which is exactly what we want. We'll wrap up with the reflection on what we've learned, how these economic and financial ideas aren't just about money, but about freedom. The freedom to choose how to live, the freedom to worry less, the freedom to plan for the future. We'll do a final recap of all the key points, one last little quiz to tie it all together, and then we'll wind down nice and slow with a calm closing that'll leave you feeling relaxed, informed, and ready for a good night's sleep. Before we dive in, let's set one more thing straight. There are no stupid questions here, and there's no such thing as knowing too little to join in. I've taught university students for years, and some of the smartest questions I've ever gotten have come from people who had no prior experience with economics or finance, people who just asked, why? That's the question we're going to keep asking tonight. Why? Why do prices go up? Why do banks change interest rates? Why do we spend money the way we do? Why does the economy matter to me, a regular person, not a CEO or a politician? That's the heart of Living-ology, right? Asking why, understanding the why behind the everyday, and upgrading our common sense one lesson at a time. So let's start with the first big question. What is economics? Let's keep it simple, really simple. Economics, at its core, is the study of how we make choices when resources are scarce. That's it. That's the whole thing in one sentence. Scarcity is the key word here. Scarcity doesn't mean that something is rare, like a diamond or a first edition book. It means that we have limited resources, limited money, limited time, limited energy, limited land, limited workers to satisfy our unlimited wants and needs. Think about it. You have 24 hours in a day. That's a scarce resource. You can spend it working, sleeping, hanging out with friends, watching TV, reading a book, exercising endless wants, but you can't do all of it. So you have to choose. That's economics. You have a certain amount of money each month, scarce resource. You can spend it on rent, food, coffee, clothes, travel, savings, endless wants. You have to choose. That's economics. A country has a certain amount of land and workers' scarce resources. It can use them to grow food, build houses, make cars, provide healthcare, fund education, endless wants from its people. It has to choose. That's economics. It's all about choice driven by scarcity. Now, this idea of scarcity and choice isn't a new one. Thinkers have been pondering this for thousands of years. Aristotle talked about it, the medieval philosophers talked about it, but it was in the late 18th century that a Scottish economist named Adam Smith really put this idea at the center of what we now call modern economics. Adam Smith wrote a book called An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations, or just The Wealth of Nations for short, published in 1776. The same year the United States declared independence, a fun little historical coincidence. In this book, Smith asks the simple question, why are some nations rich and others poor? His answer wasn't about gold or silver, which everyone thought at the time. It was about how those nations choose to use their scarce resources, how they organize their work, how they let people trade freely. Smith talked about the invisible hand, a metaphor that's become famous, and one we'll touch on later. The invisible hand is the idea that when people act in their own self-interest, when a baker bakes bread to make money, when a tailor makes clothes to make money, when you buy that bread or those clothes because you need them, they end up helping the whole economy, even if they're not trying to. It's like a dance where everyone's moving to their own beat, but somehow the whole thing comes together beautifully. That's the magic of economics. Smith said self-interest plus free trade equals a better life for everyone. Now, economics has two big branches, as I mentioned earlier, microeconomics and macroeconomics. Let's break these down with French pastries because pastries make everything easier to understand, don't they? Microeconomics is the study of the small stuff, the individual pastries, the baker who makes them, the customer who buys them. It's about individual people, individual businesses, individual markets. Microeconomics asks, how much should the baker charge for a croissant? Why do some customers buy a croissant and others a pain au chocolate? How does the baker decide how many croissants to make each morning? What if the price of butter, a key ingredient, goes up? How does that change the baker's choices? That's macroeconomics. On the other hand, is the study of the big stuff, the entire bakery shop, the whole neighborhood of bakeries, the city's pastry industry, the country's food economy. It's about the whole economy, not just one part of it. Macroeconomics asks, how does inflation affect the price of pastries across the entire country? How does the central bank's interest rate affect how much money people have to spend on pastries? How does unemployment affect how many bakers there are in the economy? How does a global pandemic, like we had a few years ago, affect the supply of flour and butter for all bakers? That's macro. Micro is the tree, macro is the forest. You need to understand both to see the whole picture. But we'll start with the trees tonight because they're closer to our everyday lives. Now, if economics is the study of choice under scarcity, then finance is the study of how we manage money and other assets to make those choices easier, to reach our goals, to deal with the risks that come with scarcity and choice. Finance is the practical side of the economic coin. It's about saving money for a rainy day, investing money for retirement, borrowing money to buy a house or a car, insuring money and yourself against unexpected events like a job loss or a medical emergency. Finance is about making your money work for you instead of you just working for your money. It's about planning for the short term, paying your bills next month, then the long term, retiring comfortably when you're 65 or 70. And just like economics, finance isn't just for the rich. It's for everyone who has $1, €1, a pound in their pocket. It's for the student who's saving for a new laptop, the barista who's saving for a vacation, the teacher who's saving for their kids' college education, the retiree who's living off their savings. Finance is about hope. It's about believing that your small, consistent choices with money can lead to a better future. One of the biggest misconceptions about finance is that it's all about investing in the stock market, buying fancy stocks, and making a lot of money fast. And while investing is a part of finance, it's only a small part. The foundation of finance is much simpler than that. It's about budgeting, it's about saving, it's about understanding the risks of any financial decision you make. You don't need to buy a single stock to be good at finance. You just need to know how much money is coming in, how much is going out, and make sure that the out doesn't exceed the in most of the time anyway. We all have those months where we splurge on a vacation or a nice dinner, and that's okay. That's the basics, and that's where everyone starts. Even the most successful investors in the world, Warren Buffett, for example, started with the basics. Saving money, living within their means, understanding risk. Buffett has a famous quote, "Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving." That's Finance 101, right there. Simple, but powerful. Now, let's go back to those three core building blocks of economics I mentioned earlier. Scarcity, choice, and opportunity cost. We've talked about scarcity and choice, but opportunity cost is the one that people often miss, and it's the one that's most important for our everyday decisions. So what is opportunity cost? Again, simple. The opportunity cost of a choice is what you give up when you make that choice. It's the next best alternative that you have to forego. It's the what if of decision making. Let's use a simple example, one we've all faced. Let's say it's a Saturday morning and you have 3 hours of free time, a scarce resource. You have three choices. You can sleep in, you can go for a hike, or you can go to a coffee shop and read a book. You choose to go for a hike. What's the opportunity cost? It's the next best choice you would have made. So if sleeping in was your second choice, then the opportunity cost of the hike is the sleep you missed. If reading a book was your second choice, then the opportunity cost is the quiet time with a book and coffee. It's not all the other choices, it's just the next best one. That's a key point. Opportunity cost isn't the sum of all the things you didn't choose. It's just the one you would have chosen if you hadn't chosen the first one. Let's make it about money. 2 cents. That's where finance comes in. Let's say you have $100, a scarce resource. You can choose to spend it on a new pair of shoes, or you can put it in your savings account, which earns a small amount of interest, or you can buy a nice dinner for two. You choose to buy the shoes. What's the opportunity cost? If putting it in savings was your second choice, then the opportunity cost is the $100 plus the interest you would have earned on it over time. If the dinner was your second choice, then the opportunity cost is the nice meal and the time with a friend or loved one. Every financial choice has an opportunity cost, just like every time choice does. And here's the thing, opportunity cost is always there, even if we don't see it. It's like a shadow that follows every decision we make. And the more we understand it, the better decisions we make because we start to see the full cost of our choices, not just the obvious one. Let's take a bigger example, one that many young people face. Going to college or university. The obvious cost of going to college is tuition, books, housing, all the money you spend. But the opportunity cost is huge. It's the money you could have earned if you'd gotten a full-time job right after high school instead of going to school. For some people, the opportunity cost is worth it because a college degree leads to a higher paying job in the long run, so the money you give up now is less than the money you'll make later. For others, it might not be because they might have a chance to start a successful business right away, or a trade job that pays well without a college degree. That's an economic choice driven by scarcity, time, and money. And the opportunity cost is the key factor in making that choice. That's why economics isn't just about numbers, it's about trade-offs. Every choice is a trade-off, and opportunity cost is the language of those trade-offs. Now, let's pause for a second, take a deep breath, no new ideas, just a little reflection. Notice how these ideas, scarcity, choice, opportunity, cost are already in your head, already part of your everyday decision-making. You might not have called them by these names, but you've been living them your whole life. When you decide to hit snooze on your alarm, you're making a choice under scarcity, time, and you're facing an opportunity cost. The time you lose to get ready for the day. When you decide to make coffee at home instead of buying it at a cafe, you're making a financial choice under scarcity, money, and the opportunity cost is the convenience of the cafe coffee or the nice chat with the barista. That's the beauty of these fundamental ideas. They're not new to you. We're just giving them names, making them explicit so you can use them more intentionally. That's the common sense plus upgrade to taking what you already know and making it clearer, sharper, more useful. I want to add a little French humor here, because what's a Living-ology lesson without a touch of la joie de vivre? In France, we have a saying, on n'y pas avoir le beurre, l'urgent. To beurre, you can't have the butter and the money for the butter. That's opportunity cost, plain and simple, wrapped up in a cute French proverb. And it's so true, isn't it? You can't spend the money you use to buy butter on something else. You can't use the time you spend eating butter on a croissant on something else. Life is full of butter and money for butter choices, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing, it's just life. And the economics helps us make peace with that, because it lets us see that every choice is a gift, a chance to pick what matters most to us. We don't have to have everything, we just have to have what's important. Now, let's move a little further with the fundamentals and talk about how these choices add up to markets, because when all of us billionaires and baristas, CEOs, and students make our individual choices under scarcity, we create markets. A market is just a place, physical or digital, where buyers and sellers come together to trade goods and services. It's the coffee shop where you buy your latte, the grocery store where you buy your bread, the TikTok live where you buy your skincare products, the stock market where you buy shares of a company, the job market where you sell your labor for a salary. Markets are just millions of individual choices, all happening at the same time. And the most amazing thing about markets is that they don't need a central planner to tell them what to do. They don't need a king or a queen or a government official to set prices or decide how much of something to make. They work on their own, driven by the choices of buyers and sellers. That's Adam Smith's invisible hand in action. Let's use the coffee market as an example. Let's say a new coffee shop opens up in your neighborhood. They charge $5 for a latte. Another coffee shop down the street charges $4 for the same latte. What do? You probably choose the $4 latte unless the $5 one has better milk or a nicer atmosphere, but let's keep it simple. That's a buyer's choice. Now, the $5 coffee shop sees that no one is coming in, so they lower their price to $3.90 to compete. The $4 shop then lowers their price to $3.80, and on it goes, until the price settles at a point where buyers are willing to buy and sellers are willing to sell, say, $4. That's the market price, set by supply and demand, which we'll talk about in part 2. Set by millions of small choices, no one in charge. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's like a symphony without a conductor. And that's the power of economics. It's the study of this symphony, this dance of choices that makes the world go round. Now, I don't want to make it sound like markets are perfect. They're not. There are times when markets fail, when the invisible hand doesn't work as well as it should. For example, if a single company controls the entire coffee market, a monopoly, they can charge whatever price they want because buyers have no other choice. That's a market failure. If coffee production harms the environment, pollution, deforestation, and the company doesn't pay for that harm, that's another market failure because the cost of the coffee is not the full cost to society. These are the times when governments step in to regulate monopolies, to tax pollution, to make sure markets work for everyone, not just a few. And that's another part of economics, studying when markets work, when they don't, and what we can do about it. But again, we'll keep that simple tonight. Just a little note that markets are amazing, but not perfect, and that's okay. As we wrap up this first part, let's do a tiny quiz, no pressure, just a little check-in, as I promised. This is our first Living-ology economics and finance quiz question, nice and easy. Ready? Question 1, what is the core study of economics in one key idea? A, how to make a lot of money on Wall Street. B, how we make choices when resources are scarce. C, how governments control the economy. Take a second, think about it, no rush. All right, the answer is B, of course. How we make choices when resources are scarce. That's the heart of it all. If you got that right, give yourself a little pat on the back. You're already on your way to Common Sense Plus. If you didn't, that's totally fine. We're just getting started, and we'll keep repeating these core ideas until they stick. Now, let's take a moment to slow down, just breathe, feel your body relax, your shoulders drop, your mind calm. We've covered the fundamentals, the building blocks, the what is it of economics and finance. We've talked about scarcity, choice, opportunity cost, micro and macro, the difference between economics and finance. We've used pastries and coffee and Saturday mornings as examples to make it all real. And now we'll take that foundation and build on it in part 2, where we'll dive into the key theories, the ones that make the everyday choices make sense, the ones that explain why the world works the way it does. We'll go slow, we'll keep it casual, we'll add a little more French humor, a little more real life examples. And as always, no pressure, no rush, just a calm conversation about the world around us. That's Living-ology. That's what we do. So take a sip of your drink, close your eyes for a second, and when you're ready, we'll move on to part 2. Welcome back, everyone. How are we all feeling? Nice and calm, I hope. Still with me. No wandering minds, or if your mind is wandering, that's okay too. Just bring it back gently. No stress. We're in part 2 of our Living-ology Y1W05 lesson, Economics and Finance Fundamentals, and we're going to dive into the key theories now, the ones that turn those building blocks we talked about in part 1 into a real understanding of how the economy and financial world work. These theories are the glue that holds everything together, the explanations for why prices go up and down, why money has value over time, why risk and reward always go hand in hand. And just like before, we're going to take it slow, use real-life examples, add a little French flair, and make sure none of this feels like a textbook. Remember, Common Sense Plus, we're not memorizing theories for a test. We're understanding them for life. So what are we going to cover in this part? Let's list it out nice and clear, just like we did before. First, we'll talk about the most famous economic theory of all, supply and demand. This is the one you've probably heard of, even if you don't know the details, and it's the most important one for everyday life. We'll break down what supply is, what demand is, how they interact, how they set prices, and we'll use tons of real-world examples, from the price of eggs during a shortage, to the price of Taylor Swift concert tickets, to the price of face masks during the pandemic. We'll even talk about how supply and demand work on social media and live commerce, because that's where so many of us make buying choices now. Then we'll move on to inflation, what it is, what causes it, the different types of inflation, and how it affects your wallet, your savings, your everyday spending. We'll talk about why inflation was such a big topic in 2022 and 2023, and why it's still a concern in 2025, even if it's calmed down a lot. We'll use simple examples to show how inflation erodes the value of money, how a dollar today isn't worth the same as a dollar 10 years ago, and how that affects every financial choice you make. After inflation, we'll shift gears to finance and talk about 3 of its core theories: the time value of money, compound interest, and the risk-reward trade-off. The time value of money is the idea that money today is worth more than the same amount of money in the future. Simple, but incredibly powerful, and the foundation of all finance. Compound interest is the magic that makes the time value of money work for UTL. Intérêt compose in French, and it's the key to building wealth over time, even with small amounts of money. Then, the risk-reward trade-off, the golden rule of finance. The idea that the higher the potential reward of an investment, the higher the risk you have to take, and vice versa. This is the theory that keeps you from falling for those get-rich-quick scams you see on social media, the ones that promise 20% returns with no risk. Spoiler, they're always a scam. We'll talk about different types of investments, from savings accounts to stocks to bonds, and how their risk and reward levels compare, using simple examples that anyone can understand. We'll also pause for a few more quiz questions in this part, just to keep our brains engaged. No pressure, just a little fun. And we'll add a little more French humor and culture, because, let's be honest, the French know a thing or two about living well, and that includes understanding money and choices, even if we do love our croissants and wine a little too much. We'll keep the pace steady, calm, no rushed explanations, no complicated jargon. If at any point you feel like we're moving too fast, just take a deep breath, and remember, we're here to relax and learn, not to cram information. This is a bedtime-friendly lesson, after all. So, let's start with the star of the show: supply and demand. Let's break this down into 2 simple parts. First supply, then demand. Then we'll put them together and watch the magic happen. Let's start with demand. Demand is simply the amount of a good or service that buyers are willing and able to buy at different prices at a certain time and place. The key words here are willing and able. It's not just that you want something, it's that you want it and you have the money to buy it. I might want a private jet, but I don't have the money to buy one. So that's not demand. I want a cup of coffee and have $5 in my pocket to buy one. That's demand. That's a crucial distinction. Demand is want plus ability to pay. Now, there's a basic law of demand that's true almost all the time. There are a few exceptions, but we'll ignore them tonight. Common sense plus, remember, not PhD level. The law of demand says, as the price of a good or service goes up, the quantity demanded goes down. And as the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. Ceteris paribus, which is a fancy Latin phrase that means all other things being equal. In plain English, the more expensive something is, the fewer people will buy it, and the cheaper it is, the more people will buy it. Makes sense, right? If a cup of coffee goes from $4 to $10, you'll probably buy less coffee. Maybe you make it at home instead. If it goes from $4 to $1, you'll probably buy more coffee. Maybe you get a second cup, or you buy one for a friend. That's the law of demand in action every single day. Let's use a fun example. Concert tickets for a big artist, say Taylor Swift or Beyonce. When these tickets first go on sale, they're priced at a certain amount, say $100 for a lower level seat. A lot of people are willing and able to buy them, so the quantity demanded is huge. They sell out in minutes. Now, scalpers buy up a bunch of these tickets and resell them for $500, $1,000, even $2,000. What happens to the quantity demanded? It goes down. Only the people who are willing and able to pay that crazy high price by them. That's the law of demand. Higher price, lower quantity demanded. Simple, right? And you see this everywhere. On Black Friday, when stores lower their prices, the quantity demanded skyrockets, and people line up outside to buy things. On the first day of a new movie, when tickets are $15, some people wait for matinee prices, $10 to go see at lower price, higher quantity demanded. The law of demand is like gravity. It's always there, always working. Now, let's talk about supply Supply is the amount of a good or service that sellers are willing and able to produce and sell at different prices at a certain time and place. Again, willing and able. It's not just that a baker can make 100 croissants. It's that they're willing to make them and they have the ingredients, flour, butter, yeast to make them. If the price of butter goes up so much that the baker can't make a profit on croissants, they might not make any even if they have the oven and the skill. They're not willing to make them. That's supply, willingness plus ability to produce and sell. And just like demand, supply has a basic law, the law of supply. The law of supply says, as the price of a good or service goes up, the quantity supplied goes up, and as the price goes down, the quantity supplied goes down, ceteris paribus, all other things equal. In plain English, the more money sellers can get for something, the more they'll produce and sell it, and the less money they can get, the less they'll produce and sell it. Makes perfect sense, right? If the price of a croissant goes from $3 to $6, the baker will make more croissants, they can make more profit, so it's worth their time and ingredients. If the price goes from $3 to $1, the baker will make fewer croissants, they can't make a profit, so they'll focus on making something else, like pain or chocolate, that sells for a higher price. That's the law of supply in action. Let's use the concert ticket example again for supply. When an artist sees that their tickets are selling out in minutes and scalpers are reselling them for thousands of dollars, they realize they can charge a higher price for the next tour. So on the next tour, they set the ticket price at $200 instead of $100. What happens to the supply of tickets? Well, the artist might add more shows in a city, so instead of one show, they do 3 shows. That's an increase in supply because the higher price makes them willing and able to put on more shows, supply more tickets. That's the law of supply, higher price, higher quantity supplied. Now, the magic happens when we put supply and demand together. The point where the quantity demanded equals the quantity supplied is called the equilibrium price or market price, an equilibrium quantity. This is the price where buyers are willing to buy exactly what sellers are willing to sell, no shortage, no surplus, everyone's happy, well, mostly happy. Let's use the coffee example again to make this concrete. Let's say at $4 a cup, the coffee shop is willing to make 100 cups a day supply, and customers are willing to buy 100 cups a day demand. That's equilibrium. $4 is the market price. 100 cups is the equilibrium quantity. Now, what if the coffee shop raises the price to $5? At $5, the shop is willing to make 120 cups supply up, but customers are only willing to buy 80 cups demand down. That's a surplus 40 extra cups that no one buys that go to waste. So the coffee shop has to lower the price back to $4 to get rid of the surplus. Now, what if the coffee shop lowers the price to $3? At $3, the shop is only willing to make 80 cups supply down, but customers are willing to buy 120 cups demand up. That's a shortage 40 customers who want coffee but can't get it. So the coffee shop raises the price back to $4 to balance it out. That's how supply and demand work together to set the market price. They're like a seesaw, always balancing each other out, always finding that sweet spot of equilibrium. And this isn't just for physical goods like coffee and croissants and concert ticket sits, for services too, like haircuts, Uber rides, tutoring, even TikTok live sales. Let's talk about TikTok live sales, because that's a huge trend on social media the last few years, and it's a perfect example of supply and demand in real time. You've probably seen these lives. A seller has a limited number of a product, say 500 skincare sets, and they start the live by saying this is a limited time offer. Only 500 sets, price is $29 instead of $59. What happens? Demand skyrockets. Everyone wants the set because it's cheap and limited. Supply is fixed at 500, so the quantity demanded far exceeds the quantity supplied. There's a shortage, and the sets sell out in seconds. That's supply and demand in real time on your phone. The seller uses the limited supply to create high demand, and they lower the price to make the demand even higher. It's brilliant marketing, and it's pure economics. Another fun example from French culture, because I promised French flair, French baguettes. A baguette is a staple in France, right? The price of a baguette is pretty much the same all over France, about €1. Why? Because supply and demand are in perfect equilibrium. Bakers make millions of baguettes every day, huge supply, and French people buy millions of baguettes every day, huge demand. If a baker tried to charge €2 for a baguette, no one would buy it. They'd go to the next baker down the street who charges €1, law of demand. If a baker tried to charge 50 cents, they'd sell out in minutes, but they'd lose money, law of supply. So the price stays at €1, equilibrium, perfect balance. And that's why the French baguette is such a beautiful thing. It's not just bread, it's economics in action. La baguette, CSL economy. Now, let's take a quick quiz break. Question 2, nice and easy, about supply and demand. Ready? Question 2. According to the law of demand, what happens to the quantity demanded when the price of a good goes up? All other things equal, A, it goes up, B, it goes down, C, it stays the same. Take a second. Think you've got this. All right, the answer is B, it goes down. Higher price, fewer people buy it. Simple, right? If you got that right, great job, you're mastering the basics. If not, no worries, we'll keep using this law all night, so it'll stick soon enough. Now, let's move on to inflation, one of the most talked about economic terms in the last few years, and one that everyone needs to understand because it affects your wallet every single day. So what is inflation? In simple terms, inflation is a sustained increase in the general price level of goods and services in an economy over a period of time. The key words here are sustained and general. It's not just one price going up like coffee going from $4 to $5. It's most prices going up, and it's not just for a day or a week, it's for months or years. And when prices go up, the purchasing power of money goes down. Your dollar, your euro, your pound buys less than it did before. That's the real impact of inflation. Your money is worth less. Let's make this super concrete with a simple example. Let's say in 2020, you could buy a sandwich, a bag of chips, and a soda for $10. That's your lunch, $10. Now, in 2025, because of inflation, that same lunch, same sandwich, same chips, same soda costs $12. That's inflation. The same goods cost more, so your $10 in 2025 only buys about $8.33 worth of goods from 2020. Your money has lost value, and that's why inflation is such a big deal, because if your salary doesn't go up as fast as inflation, you're actually making less money, even if your paycheck is the same. If you make $50,000 a year in 2020, and in 2025 you still make $50,000, but inflation has gone up 20%, your real salary is $40,000 a year poorer, even though your paycheck is the same. That's the hidden cost of inflation, the one that hurts regular people the most. Now, what causes inflation? There are two main types of inflation, based on what causes it: demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. Let's break these down simply. No jargon. Demand pull inflation is when there's too much demand for too few goods and services. Demand pulls prices up. Think of it like a party where too many people want the same cake. The cake maker can charge more for the cake because everyone wants it. In the economy, this happens when people have more money to spend. Maybe they got a raise. Maybe the government gave them stimulus checks and there aren't enough goods and services to buy. Maybe factories are slow to produce. Maybe there's a supply chain issue. So demand goes up, supply can't keep up, and prices go up. That's demand pull inflation. We saw a lot of this after the pandemic, when people had saved money during lockdowns and started spending it all at once, and factories and supply chains couldn't keep up. Cost push inflation is when the cost of producing goods and services goes up, and sellers pass that cost on to buyers. Costs push prices up. Think of the baker again. If the price of flour, butter, and yeast all go up, the baker has to charge more for a croissant to make a profit. The cost of production has gone up, so the price of the final good goes up. That's cost push inflation. We saw a lot of this in 2022 and 2023 when the war in Ukraine caused the price of oil and gas to skyrocket. Oil and gas are used to make almost everything and to transport almost everything. So the cost of production went up for every company, and they passed that cost on to consumers, making prices go up across the board. Now, a little French humor about inflation, because the French love to complain about prices, and for good reason. In France, we have a saying, l'argent n'y fait pas le bonheur, mais il facilite la vie. Money doesn't make happiness, but it makes life easier. And inflation makes that money less easy, right? It's like your wallet is slowly leaking a little bit every day, and you can't stop it. But the good news is that inflation isn't always a bad thing. Moderate inflation, about 2% a year, which is what most central banks target, is actually a sign of a healthy economy. It means people are spending money, businesses are making money, the economy is growing. It's when inflation gets to high like 10% or 20% a year that it becomes a problem, because it erodes the value of money too fast. People start hoarding goods because they think prices will go up even more, and the economy gets unstable. And that's where central banks come in, the Federal Reserve, the Fed in the US. the European Central Bank ECB in the EU, the Bank of England BOE in the UK. Their main job is to keep inflation under control, usually at about 2% a year. How do they do it? One of their main tools is interest rates. When inflation is too high, central banks raise interest rates. Raising interest rates makes it more expensive to borrow money, so people borrow less to buy houses, cars, and other big ticket items, and businesses borrow less to invest and expand. When people and businesses spend less, demand goes down and prices stop going up or go down a little. When inflation is too low or the economy is slow, central banks lower interest rates, making it cheaper to borrow money, so people and businesses spend more, demand goes up, and the economy grows. It's a delicate balance, like walking a tightrope, and central bankers have to be very careful. They raise rates too much, they can cause a recession when the economy stops growing. If they lower rates too much, inflation can spiral out of control. And this brings us to the 2025 global interest rate cuts we talked about earlier. This is a hot topic right now on the news, on YouTube, on social media. In 2022 and 2023, central banks all over the world raised interest rates to fight high inflation. The Fed raised rates from near 0% to over 5%. The ECB raised rates to over 4%, the BOE to over 5%. And it worked. Inflation came down from over 10% in 2022 to about 2 to 4% in 2025 for most major economies. Now, in 2025, central banks are cutting interest rates again because inflation is under control and the economy is slowing down a little, growth is weaker, unemployment is a little higher. The Fed has cut rates a few times in 2025. The ECB cut rates 4 times in the first half of 2025. The BOE has cut rates a few times too. And this matters to you because lower interest rates mean it's cheaper to borrow money if you're buying a house or a car. It means savings accounts earn less interest, so your money isn't growing as fast in the bank. And it means the stock market usually goes up because investors have more money to invest in stocks. That's how the big decisions of central banks affect your everyday life, all thanks to inflation and interest rates, 2 core economic ideas. Let's take another quiz break. Question 3 about inflation and central banks. Ready? Question 3. What is the main goal of central banks when it comes to inflation for most major economies? To keep inflation at 0% forever. B, to keep inflation at a moderate 2% a year. C, to let inflation go as high as possible. All right, answer time B, keep inflation at a moderate 2% a year. That's the sweet spot for a healthy economy. Great job. If you got that right, you're really getting this common sense plus upgrade. Now, let's shift to finance, as promised, and talk about the 3 core financial theories: the time value of money, compound interest, and the risk-reward trade-off. Let's start with the time value of money, TVM. This is the most fundamental idea in finance, the one that everything else is built on. The time value of money is simply the idea that a certain amount of money today is worth more than the same amount of money in the future. Why? Because money today can be invested and earn interest, so it grows into more money in the future. Also, because of inflation, money in the future is worth less than money today, as we just talked about. So even if there was no inflation, money today is still worth more because it can earn interest. That's the time value of money in a nutshell. Let's make this concrete with a simple example. No complicated math. Let's say I offer you 2 choices. I can give you $100 today, or I can give you $100 1 year from now. Which one do you choose? You choose $100 today, right? Because you can take that $100, put it in a savings account that earns 5% interest a year, and in 1 year, you'll have $105 more than $100. If you wait a year, you only get $100. That's the time value of money. $100 today is worth $105 in a year at 5% interest. So $100 in a year is only worth about $95 today. It's simple, but it's powerful because it means that every financial decision you make has a time component. You have to think not just about how much money you have, but when you have it. This idea is why getting a raise today is better than getting a raise a year from now, why paying off debt today is better than paying it off later because interest accumulates, why saving for retirement when you're 25 is so much better than saving when you're 45. We'll get to that with compound interest. The time value of money is the reason why time is your biggest financial asset at time, not money. You don't need a lot of money to build wealth. You need time to let your money grow. That's a game changer for a lot of people who think they need to be rich to save and invest. No, you need time and consistency. That's it. And that's where compound interest comes in, the magic of the time value of money, the 8th wonder of the world, as Albert Einstein is said to have called it, whether he actually said it or not. It's a great quote. Compound interest is interest that's calculated on both the initial principal and the accumulated interest from previous periods. In plain English, it's interest on interest. It's the difference between simple interest and compound interest. Simple interest is just interest on the principal. So if you have $100 at 5% simple interest a year, you get $5 a year every year. And after 10 years, you have $150. Compound interest is interest on the principal plus the interest you've already earned. So $100 at 5% compound interest a year. Year 1, you have $105. Year 2, you earn 5% on $105. So you have $110.25. Year 3, 5% on $110.25. So $115.76, and on and on. After 10 years, you have $162.89. It's almost $13 more than simple interest. After 20 years, you have $265.33, more than double the original $100. After 30 years, you have $432.19 over, 4 times the original $100, and this is with just $100, no additional contributions. Imagine if you add $50 or $100 a month to that, your money grows even faster. That's the power of compound interest. Time is more important than the amount of money you start with. Let's use a real-life example for young people. This is the most important financial lesson you can ever learn. Let's say you're 25 years old and you start saving $100 a month for retirement in an account that earns 7% compound interest a year, the average long-term return of the stock market, adjusted for inflation. You save for 10 years, then you stop, put in a total of $12,000. When you turn 65, 40 years after you started, how much do you have? Over $200,000. Now, let's say your friend is 35 years old and they start saving $100 a month for retirement, same 7% compound interest. They save for 30 years until they're 65. They put in a total of $36,000, 3 times more than you. How much do they have? About $148,000 less than you, even though they saved 3 times as much. Why? Because you started 10 years earlier. You had more time for compound interest to work its magic. That's the power of time, the power of compound interest. It's the single most important financial lesson ever. Start saving early, even if it's just a little bit. You don't need a lot of money. You need to start early. That's common sense plus finance, right there. And this brings us to the third core, financial theory, the risk-reward trade-off. This is the golden rule of finance, the one that you should tattoo on your wrist, metaphorically, so you never forget it. The risk-reward trade-off says, the higher the potential return reward of an investment, the higher the risk of losing money, and the lower the potential return, the lower the risk of losing money. There is no such thing as a high reward, low risk investment ever. If someone tells you they're lying to you, it's a scam, plain and simple. That's the golden rule, and it never breaks. Let's break this down with different types of investments, from lowest risk, lowest reward, to highest risk, highest reward, so you can see it clearly. First, savings accounts and certificates of deposit, CDs at a bank. These are the lowest risk investments. Your money is insured up to a certain amount by the government, so you will never lose your principal, the money you put in. But the reward is low. Interest rates are usually around 1 to 3% a year, which is just a little bit more than inflation, if that. So your money is safe, but it's not growing very fast. Next, bonds. Bonds are loans you make to a government or a company, and they pay you interest every year, then pay back your principal when the bond matures. Government bonds like US Treasury bonds or German bonds are low risk. Corporate bonds are a little higher risk, especially if the company is small or not very profitable. The reward is a little higher than savings accounts, 3 to 5% a year. Next, stocks are shares of a company, so when you buy a stock, you own a tiny piece of that company. If the company does well, the stock price goes up, and you make money, capital gains, plus you might get dividends, a share of the company's profits. If the company does badly, the stock price goes down, and you lose money. Stocks are higher risk than bonds and savings accounts, but the reward is higher. The average long-term return is about 7% a year adjusted for inflation. Then there are higher risk investments, mutual funds and ETFs, which are baskets of stocks and bonds, so a little less risky than individual stocks. Real estate, buying a house or an apartment to rent out, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., startup investments, and so on. These have even higher potential rewards, but they also have even higher risks. You could lose all your money. The key here is diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. As the saying goes, If you only invest in one stock and that company goes bankrupt, you lose all your money. If you invest in a basket of 100 stocks like an index fund, which tracks the entire stock market, even if a few companies go bankrupt, the rest do well and you don't lose money. Diversification is how you manage risk. You spread your money across different types of investments, different industries, different countries, so that if one investment does badly, the others make up for it. That's the smart way to invest. The common sense plus we know gambling. No picking individual stocks unless you really want to. For fun, just diversification and long-term holding. Let's take our fourth quiz break question about compound interest and the risk-reward trade-off. 2, 4, 1. Ready? Question for part A. Compound interest is calculated on which of the following? A. Only the initial principal. B. The initial principal plus accumulated interest. C. Only the accumulated interest. Question for part B. What is the golden rule of the risk-reward trade-off? A. High reward, low risk. B. Higher reward means higher risk. Lower reward means lower risk. C. Risk and reward have no relationship. Take a second. Think you've got this. All right. Part A answer is B. Principal plus accumulated interest, interest on interest. Part B answer is B. Higher reward means higher risk. Lower reward means lower risk. The golden rule? Perfect if you got both, right? You're a Living-ology finance star? If not, no worries. We'll keep coming back to these ideas and they'll stick. As we wrap up this second part, let's take a deep breath, calm our minds, relax our bodies. We've covered a lot in this part: supply and demand, the backbone of every market transaction you make, inflation, the silent eroder of your money's value, and the three core financial theories that make up the foundation of smart money management: time value of money, compound interest, and the risk-reward trade-off. We've used examples from coffee shops and French baguettes, from Taylor Swift concerts to retirement savings, to make all these ideas real and relatable. We've taken a few quiz breaks to check in, and we've added a little French humor and flair to keep it light. Most importantly, we've kept it slow, calm, and easy to understand. No textbook jargon, no complicated math, just simple, practical ideas that you can use in your everyday life. Remember, the goal here isn't to make you an economist or a financial planner. It's to give you that common sense plus upgrade to help you see the economic and financial forces that shape your life, to make better choices with your money, to worry a little less about the economy and your finances. And if this calm conversation has helped you relax a little, even just a little, then we've done our job. Because a calm mind is the first step to a good night's sleep, and that's what this Living-ology series is all about. Learning and relaxing, growing your knowledge and calming your mind, all at the same time. In the next part, part 3, we'll take all these theories and bring them down to earth. We'll connect them to the hot topics you see on social media and the news every day: TikTok, live commerce, the rise of digital currencies, the gig economy, and more. We'll talk about how these economic and financial ideas play out in the real world and the choices you make every single day, and we'll take a few more quiz breaks to keep our brains engaged. We'll keep the pace slow, the tone calm, and the examples relatable. We'll add a little more French flair, a little more real-world wisdom, and we'll keep building that common sense plus foundation. For now, just take a moment to relax. Let your eyes close if you want to. Let your body sink into your chair or your bed. Let your mind wander a little. You don't have to remember every single thing we talked about tonight. What sticks, sticks, and what doesn't. We'll come back to it. Learning is a journey, not a race. And this Living-ology series is all about taking that journey at your own pace in a calm and peaceful way. When you're ready, we'll move on to part 3, where we'll explore how all these economic and financial ideas work in the real world. Your world, the world of everyday choices, everyday spending, everyday living. Until then, just breathe, just relax, just be present. I'll be right here with you every step of the way. Part 3. Welcome back, dear listeners. If you've been resting your eyes, letting your body sink deeper into your bed or your comfortable chair, that's absolutely perfect. We're now entering part 3 of Living-ology, lesson Y1W05, an introduction to economics and finance. In this segment, we're going to bridge all the theories we've discussed so far with real-world applications, trending topics you've likely encountered online, practical behavioral insights, and a series of gentle, Lucretia quiz questions to reinforce what we've learned. We will maintain our calm, unhurried pace, weave in subtle French humor, connect concepts to contemporary Western culture and recent global events, and ensure every word is smooth, spoken, and designed to keep your mind at ease while upgrading your everyday knowledge. Let's begin by grounding ourselves in what this part will cover, so you always feel oriented and secure. First, we will explore how core economic and financial principles manifest in daily consumer behavior, from grocery shopping and restaurant pricing to subscription services and online shopping trends. Second, we will dive into recent viral and widely discussed economic and financial topics from the past few years, including social media commerce, the gig economy, central bank policies, digital currencies, and financial technology innovations that have reshaped how people interact with money. Third, we will connect these ideas to personal financial decision-making, covering budgeting, debt management, saving strategies, and long-term planning in a way that feels accessible and non-intimidating. Fourth, we will introduce a series of reflective quiz questions designed to solidify your understanding without creating any sense of stress or evaluation. And throughout, we will maintain a warm, conversational university lecture tone, informative, slightly witty, compassionate, and never condescending. Let us start with everyday consumer behavior, a domain where economics is not abstract, but lived in every choice we make. We have already discussed supply and demand, price elasticity, opportunity costs, and marginal utility. Now let us see how these principles operate silently but powerfully in the choices you make each week. Think about the concept of price elasticity, which we defined as the sensitivity of quantity demanded to changes in price. Goods with low elasticity are those we must purchase regardless of price shifts, while those with high elasticity see significant changes in demand when prices fluctuate. For most households in North America and Europe, basic groceries such as milk, eggs, bread, and staple produce fall into the low elasticity category. Even when inflation drives up the cost of these items, families adjust to other areas of spending but continue to buy them because they are necessities. This is why during periods of elevated inflation, central banks and economic analysts pay close attention to food and energy prices. These categories affect nearly every person, and their inelastic nature means price increases directly reduce disposable income for other goods and services. In contrast, items with high price elasticity include luxury goods, premium electronics, non-essential home decor, and dining at high-end restaurants. When economic uncertainty rises or disposable income shrinks, consumers quickly reduce spending in these areas. A well-known example in Western consumer culture is the lipstick effect, an economic phenomenon observed during mild recessions when consumers cannot afford large luxury purchases such as designer handbags or luxury watches. They instead buy small indulgences like premium cosmetics, which provide a sense of comfort without a major financial burden. This is a perfect illustration of both price elasticity and shifting consumer preferences in response to economic conditions, subtle, observable, and rooted in solid economic theory. Marginal utility, another key concept, also governs our daily consumption patterns. Remember that marginal utility refers to the additional satisfaction gained from consuming one more unit of a good or service, and that marginal utility tends to decrease with each additional unit consumed. This principle explains countless marketing strategies you encounter regularly. Consider the common buy one, get one half off promotion used in supermarkets, clothing stores, and online retailers. The first unit of a product carries high marginal utility, fulfills an immediate need or desire. The second unit, however, offers lower additional satisfaction. Most consumers would not purchase it at full price. By reducing the price of the second unit, retailers overcome this decline in marginal utility, encouraging higher total sales while maintaining profitability. This tactic is not random. It is a direct application of economic theory tested and refined through decades of consumer research. French humor offers a delightful perspective on this idea. In France, there is a saying that translates roughly to 1 croissant is a pleasure, 2 croissants are a responsibility, 3 croissants are a problem. This lighthearted observation captures the reality of diminishing marginal utility perfectly. The first pastry brings immense joy, the second brings comfort, and each subsequent one adds less satisfaction while introducing potential discomfort. It is a charming way to remember that economic principles are not confined to textbooks. They describe the rhythms of daily life, even in something as simple and pleasurable as enjoying a favorite food. Another everyday application is the sunk cost fallacy, a behavioral economic concept that influences countless decisions. Sunk costs are expenses that have already been incurred and cannot be recovered. Rational economic choice requires ignoring sunk costs when making future decisions, yet humans consistently struggle to do so. For example, you might purchase a movie ticket, watch the first 15 minutes, and realize the film is deeply unenjoyable. The money spent on the ticket is a sunk cost, cannot be refunded. A strictly rational choice would be to leave the theater and use the remaining time for a more satisfying activity. However, many people continue watching simply because they do not want to waste the ticket price. This fallacy also appears in financial decisions, such as holding on to a poorly performing investment because you have already invested significant capital, or continuing a subscription service you no longer use because you have already paid for the year. Recognizing the sunk cost fallacy is a key component of our common sense. Plus, Upgraded allows you to make more intentional, less emotionally driven choices with your time and money. Now let us turn to recent trending economic and financial topics that have dominated discussions on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, news outlets, and social platforms over the past several years. These topics are not isolated events. They are extensions of the theories we have studied, and understanding them helps you navigate a rapidly changing economic landscape with confidence. The first major trend we will examine is the global rise of social commerce, particularly live stream shopping, which has grown exponentially across platforms like TikTok Shop, Instagram Live Shopping, and Amazon Live. This phenomenon is a rich case study in multiple economic and behavioral principles, including information asymmetry, herd mentality, price discrimination, and real-time supply and demand dynamics. Let us break this down carefully. Traditionally, retail transactions suffered from information asymmetry, a situation where sellers possess more information about a product than buyers. In conventional online shopping, consumers rely on product descriptions, static images, and reviews, which may not fully represent quality, fit, or functionality. Live commerce reduces this asymmetry dramatically. Hosts demonstrate products in real time, answer questions immediately, show usage scenarios, and even address flaws openly. This increased transparency builds trust, reduces uncertainty, and boosts demand, directly aligning with the economic principle that reduced transaction costs and information barriers lead to more efficient markets. Live shopping also heavily relies on herd mentality, a concept from behavioral finance and psychology. Hosts frequently emphasize metrics such as over 100,000 units sold, only 500 items remaining, or everyone is buying this today. These cues trigger a fear of missing out, known as FOMO, and drive consumers to follow the actions of the crowd. From an economic perspective, this is a form of informational cascade. Individuals make decisions based on the behavior of others rather than purely private information. While this can lead to impulsive purchases, understanding the mechanism allows you to remain mindful and distinguish between genuine need and socially induced desire. Price discrimination is another core economic strategy employed in social commerce. Sellers offer different price points for different segments of consumers, exclusive discounts for followers, special prices for first-time buyers, flash sales for viewers who watch the entire stream, and loyalty rewards for repeat customers. Price discrimination, when practiced ethically, allows sellers to capture additional revenue while making products accessible to different income groups. It is not inherently unfair. It is a standard market strategy that maximizes efficiency by matching prices to consumers' willingness to pay. Recognizing this practice helps you appreciate the economic logic behind seemingly random discounts and targeted offers. A second prominent trend is the ongoing evolution of the gig economy, which includes platforms such as Uber, Lyft, Deliveroo, DoorDash, Upwork, and Fiverr. This economic model has reshaped labor markets, employment structures, and personal finance across North America and Europe, and it is deeply rooted in principles of supply, demand, flexibility, and risk allocation. The gig economy emerged from a confluence of factors: technological innovation that connects workers and customers seamlessly, changing worker preferences for flexibility over traditional employment, and shifting corporate demand for agile, on-demand labor. From an economic standpoint, the gig economy represents a reallocation of risk and reward. Traditional full-time employment typically places most risk on the employer, who provides steady income, benefits, job security, and protection from market fluctuations. Gig work, by contrast, shifts much of this risk to the worker, who assumes responsibility for income volatility, lack of benefits, self-employment taxes, and variable demand. In exchange, workers gain flexibility, autonomy, and the ability to monetize skills across multiple platforms. This trade-off is a classic example of opportunity cost. Workers choose flexibility over stability, and employers choose cost efficiency over long-term labor commitments. Understanding the gig economy through an economic lens helps individuals make more informed decisions about participation. It highlights the importance of emergency funds, insurance planning, tax awareness, and long-term savings for gig workers who lack the structured benefits of traditional employment. It also explains broader economic trends such as changes in labor force participation rates, shifts in household income patterns, and policy debates surrounding worker classification and social safety nets. This is common sense plus inaction, seeing beyond the surface of app-based work to understand its structural economic implications. Third, we must address the global monetary policy shifts that have defined the mid-2020s, particularly the series of interest rate adjustments by major central banks, including the US Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, the Bank of England, and the Bank of Canada. After a period of elevated inflation in 2022 and 2023, driven by supply chain disruptions, energy market shifts, and post-pandemic demand recovery, these central banks raised interest rates aggressively to cool inflationary pressures. By 2025, many of these banks began cutting rates gradually as inflation moderated and economic growth showed signs of slowing. Why does this matter to you as an individual? The effects of central bank interest rate policy permeate every corner of personal finance. When rates rise, borrowing costs increase. Mortgages become more expensive, auto loans carry higher monthly payments, credit card interest rates climb, and small business loans become costlier to obtain. Conversely, savings accounts and certain fixed income investments may offer higher yields, benefiting savers. When rates are cut, borrowing becomes cheaper, stimulating consumption and investment, but savings yields typically decline. These policies directly impact your monthly budget, your ability to purchase a home, your investment returns, and your overall cost of living. This is a perfect example of how macroeconomic decisions made by institutions affect microeconomics outcomes for individual households. Understanding this connection transforms you from a passive observer of financial news into an informed participant who can adjust their personal strategy in response to broader economic conditions. You do not need to be an expert in monetary policy. You only need to grasp the basic relationship between interest rates, inflation, and personal finance, core component of our Living-ology approach. Fourth, we explore the ongoing development of digital currencies and financial technology, often referred to as fintech. This category includes central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, stablecoins, mobile payment systems, peer-to-peer lending platforms, robo-advisors, and blockchain-based financial services. Over the past several years, these innovations have moved from niche experiments to mainstream relevance, changing how people save, spend, invest, and transfer money. It is important to distinguish between privately issued cryptocurrencies and public digital currencies issued by central banks. Privately issued cryptocurrencies are characterized by high price volatility, speculative investment behavior, and regulatory uncertainty. Their value is driven largely by market sentiment, demand, and adoption, making them high-risk assets according to the risk-reward trade-off we discussed earlier. Central bank digital currencies, by contrast, are digital forms of sovereign fiat currency backed by the full faith and credit of the issuing government. They aim to improve payment efficiency, reduce transaction costs, enhance financial inclusion, and strengthen monetary policy transmission. Fintech broadly has democratized access to financial services. Robo-advisors, for example, use algorithms to create low-cost, diversified investment portfolios based on individual risk tolerance and goals, breaking down barriers to entry that once limited investing to wealthy individuals or those with extensive financial knowledge. Peer-to-peer payment systems such as Venmo, PayPal, and Zelle have simplified daily transactions, reducing reliance on physical cash and traditional banking infrastructure. These innovations align with economic principles of financial inclusion, market efficiency, and reduced transaction costs, all key themes in modern financial economics. As we integrate these real-world topics, we also emphasize responsible financial behavior and risk awareness. Not all fintech innovations are equally safe or appropriate for every individual. High-risk speculative assets, unregulated platforms, and complex financial products carry significant potential for loss. Our common sense plus framework encourages curiosity combined with caution. Stay informed about new technologies, but always evaluate them through the lens of the risk-reward trade-off, liquidity needs, and long-term financial goals. Now, let us move into a sequence of gentle, reflective quiz questions designed to reinforce our key concepts without any pressure. These questions are intended to help you consolidate your understanding, not to evaluate or judge. Take your time, breathe slowly, and reflect on each one as we go. We will present each question, pause briefly to allow you to consider your answer, and then provide a clear, supportive explanation. Our first question in part 3 focuses on price elasticity. Question: which of the following best describes a product with low price elasticity? A product for which demand drops significantly when price increases. B, a necessity that consumers continue to purchase even when prices rise. C, a luxury item that people buy only when prices are low. Take a quiet moment to reflect. The correct answer is B. Low price elasticity characterizes essential goods such as basic food items, medication, and utilities products where demand remains stable despite price changes. Option A describes high elasticity, and option C also describes elastic, non-essential goods. This question reinforces how elasticity shapes consumer behavior and market dynamics. Our second question concerns behavioral economics and the sunk cost fallacy. Question: what is the sunk cost fallacy? You're making decisions based on costs that have already been incurred and cannot be recovered. B, choosing the option with the highest potential future benefit. C, ignoring all past costs when making decisions. The correct answer is A. The sunk cost fallacy occurs when we let unrecoverable past expenses influence current choices, leading to irrational decisions. Option C describes the rational approach, while option B describes forward-looking cost-benefit analysis. Recognizing this fallacy helps you make more intentional choices with your money and time. Third, we turn to herd mentality in social commerce. Question: herd mentality in live stream shopping refers to which of the following? Consumers making independent, well-researched purchasing decisions. B, consumers following the buying behavior of others due to social influence or FOMO. C, sellers adjusting prices based on production costs. The correct answer is B. Herd mentality, or the bandwagon effect, drives people to imitate the actions of a larger group. This behavioral pattern is widely used in marketing, but can lead to impulsive spending. Understanding it helps you maintain awareness and make choices aligned with your actual needs. Fourth, we assess understanding of central bank policy. Question: how do higher interest rates typically affect consumers? A, they make borrowing more expensive and may increase savings yields. B, they make borrowing cheaper and reduce savings yields. C, they have no impact on everyday personal finance. The correct answer is that higher interest rates raise the cost of mortgages, loans, and credit cards, while potentially improving returns on savings products. This connects macroeconomic policy to your daily financial life, a key skill in our common sense plus upgrade. Fifth, we revisit the risk-reward trade-off in the context of digital assets. Question: according to the fundamental risk-reward trade-off in finance, which statement is most accurate? A higher potential returns always come with higher associated risk. B, it is common to find investments with high returns and very low risk. C, risk and return are unrelated in well-functioning markets. The correct answer is A. This is a foundational principle we have emphasized throughout this lesson. Any opportunity promising high returns with little to no risk should be approached with extreme skepticism, as it often indicates fraud or misunderstanding. As we near the end of part 3, let us consolidate these applications into actionable personal finance insights that align with our calm, supportive tone. First, cultivate awareness of economic principles in your daily choice. Elasticity, marginal utility, and sunk costs in the decisions you make without overanalyzing or stressing. Second, stay informed about major economic trends such as interest rate changes, fintech developments, and labor market shifts, but filter information through a balanced, low-anxiety lens. Third, apply the risk-reward trade-off and diversification to your financial life. Regardless of your income level, 11 small savings can be allocated across low-risk instruments to build security over time. Fourth, prioritize understanding over expertise. You do not need to master every economic model, but you can develop a coherent framework that helps you navigate financial choices with confidence and peace of mind. We will maintain this gentle, supportive energy as we prepare to transition into the final segment. Remember that this lesson is designed not to exhaust your mind, but to enrich it gently while supporting a state of calm and relaxation. Every concept we have explored is intended to make your relationship with money, consumption, and economic life clearer and less stressful. In the final part, we will look toward future economic trends, offer sustainable long-term advice, share closing reflections, encourage you to engage with this content by liking, sharing, and saving it, and guide you into a peaceful, restful state conducive to sleep. For now, take a slow, deep breath, feel your body relax further, and trust that you are building a stronger, more resilient set of life skills, one calm, thoughtful moment at a time. Part 4. Welcome back, dear listeners. We've journeyed through the fundamentals of economics and finance, explored their core theories, and connected them to the real-world trends and phenomena that shape our daily lives. Now, we arrive at the fourth and final segment of our Living-ology Y1W05 session. In this part, we will look ahead to future economic and financial trends, offer practical and actionable personal finance strategies suitable for everyday people, conduct our remaining quiz questions to consolidate all the knowledge we've covered, reflect deeply on what these concepts mean for our lives, and finally, guide you into a state of calm and peace as you prepare for rest. Let us proceed gently, at a relaxed pace, with no pressure, only understanding and tranquility. First, let us turn our gaze to the future, examining the key economic and financial trends that are likely to define the coming years, based on analyses from leading research institutions, central bank reports, and peer-reviewed academic studies. Globally, the post-pandemic economic landscape continues to evolve, with the 2025 trend of interest rate cuts by major central banks set to shape market dynamics for the foreseeable future. As the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, and the Bank of England gradually reduce benchmark interest rates to support sustainable growth, we can anticipate several notable outcomes. Increased liquidity in the financial system may moderately boost valuations of growth-oriented assets such as equities and innovative tech-related investments, while simultaneously making borrowing more affordable for households seeking mortgages or small businesses looking to expand operations. However, this also means that traditional savings vehicles will offer lower yields, emphasizing the need for balanced asset allocation rather than relying solely on bank deposits for long-term wealth preservation. Emerging market economies are projected to become increasingly significant contributors to global growth, driven by demographic dividends, expanding middle-class populations, and advancements in digital infrastructure. Academic research from institutions like the International Monetary Fund highlights that these regions will play a pivotal role in global consumption and technological innovation, presenting both opportunities and considerations for diversified investment strategies. Additionally, the transition to a greener, more sustainable global economy remains a dominant long-term trend. Policies focused on carbon reduction, renewable energy adoption, and sustainable business practices are not merely environmental initiatives, but fundamental economic shifts. Investments in clean energy, circular economy technologies, and sustainable infrastructure are backed by extensive economic research indicating long-term viability and resilience as governments and international bodies implement regulatory frameworks and incentives to accelerate this transition. This shift is not just a trend, but a structural transformation that will influence supply chains, consumer behavior, and investment returns for decades to come. In terms of technological integration within finance, the advancement of central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, will continue to reshape the global monetary system. Unlike unregulated virtual assets, CBDCs are sovereign digital currencies backed by national governments, designed to enhance payment efficiency, reduce transaction costs, and improve financial inclusion. Research from the Bank for International Settlements indicates that over 130 countries are currently exploring or developing CBDCs, with cross-border payment systems being a key area of focus. This technology has the potential to eliminate lengthy processing times and high fees associated with traditional international money transfers, making financial transactions more accessible to individuals and small businesses worldwide. Concurrently, artificial intelligence is becoming increasingly embedded in personal finance, with algorithm-driven financial planning tools and automated investment services becoming more mainstream. These tools, grounded in financial economics research, provide personalized guidance based on an individual's risk tolerance, financial goals, and time horizon, democratizing access to financial advice that was once only available to high net worth individuals. Another critical future trend is the evolving nature of work and income distribution, a topic deeply studied in labor economics. The gig economy, which has expanded rapidly over the past decade, continues to redefine employment structures, offering flexibility but also presenting challenges related to income stability and social safety nets. Economic research emphasizes the growing importance of adaptable skills and continuous learning as automation and digitalization reshape labor market demands. Income inequality remains a key area of academic and policy focus, with extensive studies confirming that moderate inequality can incentivize innovation and labor productivity, while excessive inequality can hinder long-term economic growth and social cohesion. The concept of inclusive growth, supported by numerous economic journals and research papers, advocates for policies that expand access to education, healthcare, and financial resources, ensuring that the benefits of economic progress are shared more broadly across society. This aligns with the core principles of equitable resource allocation that form the foundation of modern welfare economics. Now, let us translate these future trends and core theories into practical, actionable personal finance advice that anyone can implement regardless of their current financial situation. These recommendations are rooted in timeless financial principles validated by decades of academic research and real-world application, designed to promote financial security and peace of mind, which in turn supports better sleep and overall well-being. The first and most foundational piece of advice is to cultivate a healthy and realistic financial mindset. It is essential to understand that personal finance is not about achieving overnight wealth or speculating on high-risk opportunities. Successful financial management is a long-term practice focused on preserving value, growing assets steadily, and mitigating unnecessary risk. A wealth of behavioral economics research warns against the allure of schemes promising abnormally high returns with little to no risk. These consistently prove to be unsustainable or fraudulent as they violate the fundamental risk-reward trade-off. True financial stability comes from discipline, consistency, and a clear understanding of one's own financial reality, not from get-rich-quick fantasies. Adopting this mindset is the first step toward reducing financial anxiety, a common barrier to restful sleep. Second, create a personalized and flexible financial plan. Begin by defining clear, achievable financial goals, whether they are building an emergency fund, saving for homeownership, preparing for retirement, or funding educational pursuits. Each goal should have a defined time horizon and monetary target, allowing you to structure your plan accordingly. Next, conduct an honest assessment of your risk tolerance, considering factors such as your age, income stability, financial obligations, and emotional ability to withstand market fluctuations. Younger individuals with longer investment horizons and more stable career trajectories generally have a higher capacity to tolerate short-term market volatility, while those closer to retirement or with greater financial dependence may prioritize capital preservation. Based on these factors, construct a diversified asset allocation strategy, spreading funds across different asset classes such as equities, fixed income securities, cash equivalents, and real assets to reduce non-systematic risk. This plan should not be static. It should be reviewed and adjusted periodically to reflect changes in your life circumstances, market conditions, and economic landscape. Third, embrace the power of long-term investing and compound interest, a principle supported by countless financial economic studies and exemplified by the experiences of successful long-term investors. As we have discussed earlier, time is the most valuable asset in wealth creation. Even small, consistent contributions to investment accounts can grow significantly over decades due to the compounding effect, where returns generate additional returns over time. Avoid the common behavioral pitfall of market timing, which involves attempting to buy assets at their lowest price and sell at their highest point. Extensive academic research shows that market timing is extremely difficult to execute consistently, even for professional fund managers, and that long-term, passive investment strategies often outperform active trading over extended periods. By maintaining a long-term perspective and avoiding impulsive decisions based on short-term market fluctuations, you allow compounding to work effectively and reduce the stress associated with constant market monitoring. Fourth, prioritize financial literacy and continuous learning. The field of economics and finance is dynamic, with new research, products, and regulations emerging regularly. Commit to engaging with credible financial education resources, such as peer-reviewed articles, reports from reputable financial institutions, and evidence-based educational content. Stay informed about major economic indicators, central bank policies, and global market trends, but maintain a critical perspective and filter out sensationalized or unsubstantiated information. Building financial literacy empowers you to make informed decisions, avoid common pitfalls, and adapt to changing economic conditions, reducing the uncertainty and anxiety that often accompany financial choices. Remember, the goal is not to become a professional economist or investor, but to elevate your everyday financial understanding to a common sense plus level, enabling you to navigate life's financial decisions with confidence and clarity. Now, let us proceed with our remaining quiz questions, designed to reinforce the key concepts we have covered throughout this session. These questions are intended for gentle reflection, not evaluation, so take your time and respond at your own pace. Our sixth quiz question focuses on price elasticity, a core microeconomics concept. Question 6. What is price elasticity of demand? A. The degree to which quantity demanded responds to changes in price. B. The degree to which price responds to changes in quantity demanded. C. The degree to which quantity supplied responds to changes in price. The correct answer is A. Price elasticity of demand measures the sensitivity of consumer demand to price fluctuations. Essential goods such as food, medicine, and basic utilities typically have low price elasticity as demand remains relatively stable even when prices rise. Luxury goods and non-essential items tend to have high price elasticity as demand decreases significantly when prices increase. Option B reverses the relationship, and option C describes price elasticity of supply, a related but distinct concept. Seventh, we examine the concept of compound interest, a cornerstone of personal finance. Question 7. What best defines compound interest? A. Interest earned only on the initial principal amount invested. B. Interest earned on both the initial principal and the accumulated interest from previous periods. C. Interest that increases linearly over time regardless of account balance. The correct answer is B. Compound interest, often referred to as the magic of wealth building. Calculates earnings on both the original sum of money and the interest that has already been added to the principal. This creates a snowball effect where the growth of capital accelerates over time. Option A describes simple interest, which does not generate earnings on accumulated interest, and option C is a vague and inaccurate description that does not align with either simple or compound interest mechanisms. Eighth, we revisit the fundamental principle of risk and return. Question 8. Which statement best summarizes the risk-return trade-off, a foundational principle of finance? A higher risk is always associated with lower potential returns. B. Lower risk is always associated with higher potential returns. C. Higher potential returns generally require the acceptance of higher risk, and lower risk is generally associated with lower potential returns. The correct answer is C. This principle is universally supported by financial theory and empirical evidence. Assets such as government bonds and high-yield savings accounts carry minimal risk but offer modest returns. Equities, alternative investments, and startup ventures carry higher risk but offer the potential for greater long-term rewards. There are no exceptions to this core relationship, and understanding it is crucial to avoiding fraudulent investment schemes and making rational financial choices. Ninth, we assess understanding of asset allocation, a key component of modern portfolio theory developed by Harry Markowitz, for which he was awarded the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences. Question 9. What is asset allocation? A concentrating all investment capital in a single asset class to maximize potential returns. B. Distributing investment funds across different asset classes to balance risk and reward based on individual goals and risk tolerance. C. Investing exclusively in international assets to diversify geographically. The correct answer is B. Asset allocation involves dividing investments among different categories such as stocks, bonds, cash, and real assets to reduce exposure to any single asset's volatility. This practice, validated by extensive financial research, allows investors to optimize returns for a given level of risk. Option A describes concentrated investing, which carries extremely high non-systematic risk, and option C is only a narrow subset of diversification, not a complete definition of asset allocation. 10th and finally, we explore behavioral economics as it applies to modern consumer behavior. Question 10. What best describes the herd mentality or herd effect commonly observed in social commerce and investment decisions? A. Individuals making independent, well-researched decisions free from external influence. B. Individuals following the actions and decisions of a larger group, often without independent analysis. C. Individuals making purchasing decisions based solely on the intrinsic value and utility of a product. The correct answer is B. The herd effect is a well-documented behavioral economic concept explaining phenomena such as viral social media purchases, market bubbles, and panic selling. Marketers and content creators often leverage this tendency by highlighting high sales volumes and limited availability to encourage impulsive buy-in. Recognizing this cognitive bias allows individuals to make more deliberate, rational choices aligned with their actual needs and financial goals. Congratulations on completing all 10 quiz questions. Whether you answered everyone correctly or found opportunities to learn and reflect, the purpose of this exercise has been fulfilled. To reinforce key concepts and encourage active engagement with the material, this is the essence of Living-ology, transforming passive listening into active understanding, elevating your everyday knowledge to support better decision-making and a more mindful life. As we near the conclusion of our session, let's take a moment to reflect on the broader meaning of economics and finance in our lives. These disciplines are far more than graphs, equations, and market movements. They are frameworks for understanding choice, scarcity, trade-offs, and human behavior. Economics teaches us to appreciate the interconnectedness of our decisions, to recognize the hidden costs and opportunities in every choice we make, and to understand how individual actions collectively shape the world around us. Finance provides us with the tools to manage our resources responsibly, to plan for the future, to mitigate risk, and to pursue a life of greater security and autonomy. Together, they form a lens through which we can view our daily lives with greater clarity, reducing uncertainty and fostering a sense of control over our circumstances. We have explored how these concepts manifest in everyday experiences, from the price of a morning coffee to the decisions we make about our careers, from the allure of social media shopping to the strategies we use to save for retirement. We have examined historical and economic thought, from Adam Smith's insights into the invisible hand to Markowitz's modern portfolio theory, grounding our discussion in academic rigor while maintaining accessibility. We have connected these theories to current trends, such as central bank policy shifts, digital currency innovation, and the evolution of the gig economy, ensuring that our knowledge remains relevant and applicable to the world we live in today. And we have done all of this in a calm, gentle tone, intended to inform without overwhelming, to educate without creating stress, supporting your goal of relaxation and restful sleep. Before we conclude, I would like to gently remind you that if you found value in this 5th installment of our Living-ology series, focused on an introduction to economics and finance, please consider liking, sharing, and saving this content. Sharing this session helps us reach more individuals seeking to elevate their life knowledge to a common sense plus level, fostering a community of curious, mindful, and informed people. By saving this content, you can revisit the concepts and advice at your own pace, reinforcing your understanding whenever you wish. Your support helps sustain the development of future Living-ology sessions covering diverse fields such as psychology, philosophy, aesthetics, health sciences, and technology, all designed to enrich your daily life and promote well-being. Now, as we bring the session to a close, I invite you to shift your focus entirely to relaxation and peace. Let go of any thoughts about economic theories, financial strategies, or quiz answers. Allow your mind to unwind, your body to release tension, and your breathing to slow into a steady, gentle rhythm. Feel the comfort of your surroundings, the warmth of stillness, and the quiet relief of completing a period of learning and reflection. Remember that financial security and understanding are valuable, but they are means to a greater end, living a life of balance, purpose, and tranquility. You do not need to master every detail immediately. What matters is the gradual, consistent effort to understand and improve one step at a time. May you carry this sense of calm with you as you transition into rest. May your mind be free from worry, your body be free from tension, and your sleep be deep and restorative. May you wake tomorrow with a clearer understanding of the economic and financial forces that shape your world, and with the confidence to make choices that align with your goals and values. This has been Living-ology, Y1W05, an introduction to economics and finance. Thank you for joining me, for your attention, and for your willingness to learn and grow. Until we meet again in the next session of our Living-ology series, sweet dreams and good night.